Paintings by Russian realist artists can be seen not only in Russian museums, the Tretyakov Gallery, and other major exhibition centers in Russia, but also they occupied honorable places in foreign galleries and private collections. No matter what new trends appear, academic art is the foundation on which various directions can grow. Thanks to its distinctiveness, Russian painting has had a tremendous influence on world artistic culture. Canvases here have been created since the times of Ilya Repin, Arkhip Kuinji, Bokaevsky, Nikolai Rerik. If we were to list the Soviet period, it would be easier to name those whose surnames were not mentioned. Few know where many famous painters found inspiration, painted their works, searched for their styles, and grew from budding artists to recognized masters of the brush. We call this place the land of inspiration because there is truly incredible energy here. Akademichka, the land of inspiration. Start here with horizon. When you organize the general composition, it will be your starting point, like entering this story. Ringing silence and absolute tranquility. Perhaps at this very place, 140 years ago, a budding artist opened his easel, took out his paint, and made his first brushstrokes on canvas. It is unlikely that he and many other artists later could have predicted that a summer refuge for poor students would not just become a place for study sessions, but would transform into a real center of creative life, where those considered classics of realism would create their masterpieces. Here is a famous phrase, famous words by Ilya Repin. It conveys my mood and mood of other artists working here, maybe attitude and idea. So he said, beauty is a matter of taste, and for me, it lies in the truth. It is hard to count how many paintings have come from the brushes of painters who worked at the Ilya Repin academic dacha, or Akademichka, as the artists fondly call it. This place is sacred to me, and even our river Msta and our fields and flowers have incredible mystical significance to me. It is impossible not to start painting here. Over 140 years of existence, the academic dacha has been attempted to be destroyed several times. It appeared on the eve of a series of events that affected the entire course of Russian and world history, but apparently God protects this place. Here are very good mixes, and here, now we continue to paint the forest. If the forest in the background is very light, you can look at the forest which is closer, and the shades and mixes take from here. This old house, now housing a museum, is a direct witness to history which began on July 22nd, 1884. It was then that the Vladimir Mariinsky Refuge was opened here as a place for summer practice for impoverished students of the Imperial Academy of Arts. It appeared thanks to the efforts of Vasily Kokorev, one of the richest people in Russia in the 19th century, a collector and patron. Vasily Alexandrovich had a dacha close to these places. The idea of creating a refuge was suggested to him by the artist Ilya Repin. In the summer of 1885, a large wooden octagon in style of ancient Russian architecture was built according to the project of architect Vasily Kendall. Today, this house can rightfully be called a symbol of academic dacha, and perhaps it is the only building unknown to the general public that can be seen on thousands of drawings. Excuse me, please, look. This pine and this little fir tree need to be composed so that all attention goes to the sky and to that distant background. Just 3 years later, the refuge became popular, changed its name, and along with it, its status. Now it is the academic dacha where not only beginners but also quite renowned artists are guests. In the former caretaker's house on the second floor, Ilya Repin loved to stay. In 1898, during one of his visits, he painted the famous study at the academic dacha. Now it's kept in the Russian Museum in St. Petersburg. In 1904, the Russo-Japanese War began, requiring significant expenditures from the treasury of the Russian Empire. Due to lack of funding, the academic dacha was closed. It is hard to imagine how students perceived the closure of academic dacha. You learn from your classmates how great it was to paint at the dacha. You already imagine how you will go, how you will create your masterpieces, and suddenly all plans collapse. The Russo-Japanese War lasted just over a year and a half, but inflicted significant damage to the treasury. The place, which once became the center of the universe for realist artists, could have remained in the past, if not for Ilya Repin and the rector of Academy of Arts, Vladimir Beklamishev. They managed to achieve the reopening of the dacha, and it once again became popular among beginning artists.
Удалось добиться открытия дачи, после чего она вновь становится популярной в среде начинающих художников.
Later, the works of artists created here became the golden fund of world painting. The originals of these paintings are in major museums. These are their reproductions. Arkhip Guinji often came here. Meetings with young artists and students were held, birthdays were celebrated. There were boat trips.
Начиная с 1908 года, на академическую дачу
In 1908, artists such as Isaac Levitan, Arkhip Guinji, Nikolai Rerik, Valentin Serov, and many other classics of Russian and world painting also came to the dacha to work. Once Repin said that the best workshop for an artist is nature. How did Levitan, for example, painted the picture above the eternal peace? First, he painted studies from nature, one in Plos, another in these regions. Do you remember the painting by Levitan? Above the eternal peace, how there he processed both the lake and the river and the land in the foreground together with the chapel. It all started with a study. Nikolai Konstantinovich Roerich was a frequent guest at the dacha, even being a student of the Imperial Academy of Arts. In 1897 he painted his diploma work here, which Pavel Tretyakov, gallerist, acquired for his collection immediately after the first show. The whimsical forests with various trees, the grass is flowery, deeply blue, wavy distances, mirrors of rivers and lakes everywhere. Mossy carpets are richly thrown, white with green, lilac, red, orange, black with yellow. Choose any, everything is untouched, waiting. From the book by Nikolai Roerich, The Untouched Cup. At the academic dacha, the word luck in Russian sounds like a pun, because next to dacha it sounds the same as luck. But luck was not always on its side. It could have happened that I would not be standing here now with an easel. But apparently, this place has a special magic. During the fire of the 1917 revolution and the subsequent civil war, many symbols and traditions of Tsarist Russia disappeared. Among them was the academic dacha. It was closed.
На этот раз, как тогда казалось, закрыли ее навсегда.
First, it was a refuge for homeless children here, then an orphanage. In 1932, a pioneer camp, and during the World War II, it was a hospital. Artists did not forget about this place, which became part of their souls. And after 30 years, it was possible to obtain permission from the government of USSR to open the academic dacha again. Timofey Ilyich Katorkin, who revived the academic dacha after the war, was its student before the revolution. He liked it here. In 1947, he wrote letters to the Council of Ministers of the USSR, and the academic dacha was revived as a house of creativity for professionals. Maybe these places under Vishny Volochyok town are familiar to you from the paintings of Isaac Levitan, from works of Rabin and his students, Kuinji. Middle of 20th century, there was a real boom in construction of houses of creativity. The academic dacha always occupied a special place among them. There were quite a few houses of creativity. The House of Creativity Academic Dacha, it was a mecca, especially for realist artists. Young painters worked side to side with eminent masters, and under their direct supervision became great artists.
Многие впоследствии признавались, что именно здесь, на академической даче, стали большими художниками.
All my creative life is connected with these wonderful places of Tver, the House of Creativity Academic Dacha. We first came here with my brother Alexei Petrovich in 1954. I'm not afraid to say this. Here we became artists. Operated all year round.
Круглый год. И вновь, как и 100 лет назад, пользовалась огромной популярностью.
With about 120 people coming here in the summer and about 60 in the winter. A real creative atmosphere reigned here. During the day, students worked on studies and paintings. In the evenings, they often gathered around the campfire or in the dining room, argued about art, discussed the creativity of colleagues, and shared plans. When I was a member of the Union of Artists and they sent me to the academic dacha from the Union of Artists, it was a completely different story. I was so proud and happy. They give you a studio, you live here at the academic dacha, you work with all the artists. You have an artistic instructor. Paintings created here are familiar to many of us from illustrations in textbooks of literature in Russian language. Here were painted on Saturday and before the dances by Yuri Hugach, Morning by Vyacheslav Sagonik, Fresh Wind by Vladimir Gavrilov, and many others. This is Soviet period paintings. These works were created here. Originals are in museums. Levitin Anatoly Pavlovich, Warm Day. His work is in the Russian Museum. His wife, Maya Kapitseva, posted for him. Probably the most thrilling part is when you come to the academic dacha and you see an artist standing here in a plaid shirt. You can approach, watch, and listen for good advice. You need to paint from nature as much as possible because only it can guide you correctly. You will never be able to paint like that from a photograph. Then you accidentally find out that the person in front of you is a member of the Union of Russian Artists, whose works are in the collections of dozens of museums, including the Tretyakov Gallery. This is my father's shirt. He passed away 7 years ago. Earlier in my life, I have not been planning to become an artist. So shortly before his death, my father asked me, "Are you happy that you became an artist?" I was thinking, the real criterion is when other people say that you are an artist. So I didn't tell him anything, but now I regret it and blame myself for not saying, yes, Dad, I'm happy. In the second half of the 20th century, artists began to build or buy houses in nearby villages. Karen Kazanchan, the Tkachov's brother, Yuri Petrovich Gugach, Anatoly Pavlovich Levitin, all of them lived here, and we, the children living nearby, had the opportunity to interact with these great masters. The area began to be called Russian Barbizon, analogous to the village of Barbizon in the Fontainebleau forest in France. This house belonged to well-known Soviet artists, the Tkachov brothers. They worked together. This house was that of the artist Kazanchan. He was also a good artist. So later, this house became a part of the AKADEMICHKA. In these villages, artists have painted a vast number of paintings, including those of everyday genre. The young women who posed for the painters often became their muses for life. These villages became a source of inspiration for many artists, and many village girls became their muses. Some artists married local girls and took them to cities. But girls' parents lived here, so artists were coming as families back to these places. Residents of local villages can be seen on canvases of these artists in Tretyakov Gallery. Often, when my son visits the Tretyakov Gallery, there was such an artist as Yuri Volkov, whose work Election Day is now in the Russian Museum. And my mother is in that painting. She posed as a 13-year-old girl for the artist. The special mystic of the academic dacha is that at some point, an artist can no longer live without this silence, nature, crooked houses, and even the paths between them. I try to paint several studies each year, specifically on the territory of the academic dacha, purely for myself, for my soul. These places are dear to me. I never tire of painting year after year. No matter how many peonies I've painted, they themselves do not interest me. I'm interested in how they change over time and how they evoke completely different feeling and joy in me that was not there last year. It is quite possible that today the academic dacha is the living embodiment of Ilya Repin's dream of an ideal place for an artist's work and life. I remain the same as in my earliest youth. I love light, truth, goodness, and beauty as the greatest gifts in my life, and especially art. I love art more than virtues, more than any happiness and joy of our life. From a letter by Ilya Repin to Vladimir Stasov, 1899. For many years, the academic dacha, unknown to the general public, has turned into a real mecca for artists seeking their place in the complex and contradictory world of painting. However, at the turn of the 20th and 21st centuries, the academic dacha once again had all of the chances to sink into oblivion. The fate of many cultural objects in the next break of Russian history did not spare it. Located far from major centers and deprived of funding, the dacha was on the verge of permanent closure. In the 1990s, the artists themselves remember how it used to be, helped the academic dacha, including financially. Everything here was boarded up. Crows flew around, and it was very frightening that it would never open again. We just walked around here and cried. And now, when there are once again artists here, young and great, standing and painting, it is so pleasing and inspiring. It is such a joy for us when the dacha is alive. I observed how everything was fading at the academic dacha. In 2019, we decided that we needed to take action because the academic dacha could have been completely closed, which would have been death for a unique place that of course should live. There are problems, but they are gradually being solved, and the academic dacha continues to perform its main task, educating new artists to the fullest. Even just talking with good professionals, talking to them and their advice, this is a great support and valuable for young authors. Here at the academic dacha, guys, as in the old times, can gain not only new experience but also their first recognition from the highest level professionals. Right now, they are forming a young stream. There are graduates of all universities of the country. We will select young people who will come for about a month in August and will paint their pictures. There will be a commission here which will include professors from Moscow and St. Petersburg, from academies. The Ilya Repin academic dacha remains an important focus of cultural life. It is not only a place of attraction for artists, but also a spiritual beacon for those who have decided to dedicate their lives to painting. Artists have come here and will continue to come. This place will live. Try doing it easily. You are free people. You are the authors of the story. and it will be unique in the entire cosmos. In the 21st century, when neural networks have learned to paint and paintings are created with a click of a computer mouse, there is something that will never replace neither the person nor the place where he creates his works. At the academic dacha, standing at the easel, you seem to be alone with yourself and feel how the energy of hundreds of great Russian painters who work here fills you and whispers, "Don't be afraid, you will succeed."
Дает свои творения. На академичке, встав у мольберта, ты словно оказываешься один на один с собой и чувствуешь, как энергия сотен великих русских живописцев, работавших здесь, наполняет тебя и шепчет: «Не бойся, у тебя все получится».